All right, let's jump right into this sharp and darkly funny one-act play about a family that really can't wait to cash in on a death. We're taking a closer look at Stanley Houghton's The Dear Departed, which is just this brilliant, biting satire on greed and, well, family values. So the story kicks off with this wonderfully cynical question from the youngest character, Victoria. And right from the get-go, her innocent but, brutally honest observation tells us this is not your typical family gathering for a loved one. It's this huge red flag that something is very, very wrong in this house. And boy, do we find out fast what mourning really means to this family. We meet the Slaters just moments after they've supposedly discovered that their grandfather, Abel Merriweather, has died upstairs. But let's just say their version of grief is, well, it's something else.
Okay, so here are our main players, and you are definitely going to want to keep an eye on Mrs. Amelia Slater. I mean, the description says it all. Vigorous, plump, vulgar, and totally prepared to do any amount of straight talking to get her own way. Honestly, she's the one steering this whole runaway train.
So, what's the first order of business? Not calling a doctor, not crying. Nope. It's keeping up appearances. Mrs. Slater is just completely obsessed with it, scolding her 10-year-old daughter for not wearing black. She's way more worried about what her sister will think than anything else. And right there, that's our first huge clue that her grief is about as deep as a puddle. And if you want a perfect example of her priorities, check this out. In one breath, she's talking about how her heart is fit to break, right? And then in the very next, she's making her husband Henry put on the brand new slippers belonging to the man who supposedly just died upstairs. And her reason? It would be a shame to waste them. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Right, so let's get into the next phase here, because trust me, the slippers are just the beginning. This whole thing is less about mourning and more about, well, a pre-funeral heist. So what's the real prize Mrs. Slater has her eye on? It's this handsome bureau sitting in her father's room. It's a piece of furniture she's apparently always wanted. And now that he's gone, she sees her chance. She's got to grab it before her sister, Mrs. Jordan, shows up and tries to lay a claim. So they come up with this, honestly, ridiculous plan to steal the thing before her sister even gets there. Henry, her husband, he's a little hesitant, he thinks it's a bit tacky. But Mrs. Slater basically just steamrolls him into helping her drag this heavy bureau downstairs. Then they swap it with their own shabby old chest of drawers to cover their tracks. And once again, it's the kid, Victoria, who just cuts right through all the nonsense. She sees her parents are wrestling with this piece of furniture and just asks, plain as day, "Are you planning to pinch it?" It totally shocks her father. I mean, she's really the only moral compass in a house that has completely lost its way. So what's Henry's excuse? Oh, it's a real work of art. He tells her, Grandpa gave it to your mother before he died. But it's such a clumsy lie that even a 10-year-old sees right through it. When he says it happened this morning, Victoria just points out that her grandpa was drunk. Their greed is making them look absolutely foolish. Okay, so just as they get the bureau and, oh yeah, a stolen clock into place, there's a knock at the door. You guessed it. The other half of this delightful family, the Jordans, have arrived. And here comes Mrs. Jordan, who is, for all intents and purposes, a mirror image of her sister when it comes to greed. She and her husband, Ben, show up decked out, head to toe in brand new mourning clothes. Yeah, they've already been shopping. That tells you where their heads are at. So the sisters put on this little show of being sad, sniffing back tears, for about 5 seconds. Then it's straight down to business. And what's the first question? Should we have tea before we go see the body? The decision is unanimous. Tea first, grief later. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? Priorities. All right, so the tea is poured, the fake pleasantries are done. Now the conversation can finally turn to what really matters to them, dividing the spoils. And like clockwork, a fight breaks out almost immediately. Mrs. Jordan insists that her father promised his gold watch to her son. Mrs. Slater is, of course, absolutely scandalized. They start arguing over who had to put up with the old man longer. It's just a masterclass in petty jealousy and years of resentment just bubbling right up to the surface. But the real anxiety, the thing they really care about, is the money. See, Grandpa was supposed to have gone out that morning to pay his insurance premium. But little Victoria chimes in again, saying he didn't actually go into town. He went for a walk with a friend.
And just like that, the whole family starts to panic. What if the money's gone?
And there it is. The second they think there's no money on the table, their true feelings just come pouring out. The man they were just mourning a few minutes ago, now he's a drunken old beggar who did it on purpose just to annoy them. The mask of sorrow doesn't just slip, it's completely ripped off. And this is where their own greed comes back to bite them. In the frantic search for this insurance receipt, Mrs. Slater actually suggests looking in the bureau. You know, the new bureau. She completely forgets herself and draws everyone's attention to the very piece of furniture they just stole. The lie is about to come crashing down.
So, just as the argument over the bureau is really heating up, the whole atmosphere in the room just gets shattered. A terrified Victoria comes running back in from upstairs.
She yells, "Mother! Mother! Grandpa's getting up!" And does the family believe her? Not for a second. They just dismiss her, call her silly, crazy. In their minds, he's dead. It's a done deal. The alternative is just completely impossible for them to even consider. But then, their squabbling just stops cold. Everyone is frozen, just listening. The reality of what might be happening is so far outside their greedy little plans that their brains just can't process it. You can hear a slight chuckling from upstairs. And then, the door opens. And it's not a ghost. It's Abel Merriweather, very much alive, looking pretty good, actually, and wondering what on earth all the fuss is about. Now, he's described as vigorous, with bright, malicious eyes, and you just know he has heard everything. The whole charade is over. The family has been caught, completely red-handed. You know, the title of this play is just so brilliantly ironic. The dear departed. He wasn't dear to them at all. Only his stuff was. So in the end, the only things that have truly departed from this family are decency, love, and respect. It's such a sharp critique of a society that's becoming more and more concerned with appearances and material things than with, actual human connection. It really leaves you wondering, what happens to a family or even a whole society when we start valuing what people have more than who they are?